Hello everyone, and welcome back to the librevox recording of A Dark Secret, Chapter 3. Now, if you remember from before, we were given the choice to go up the stairs or down the stairs after burying our dead child. This was a quite disturbing moment in this game, so, yeah. Anyways, let us continue. We're going to go up towards the sky. By the time Shiria was able to continue and go up the stairs, hours had gone by. When she reached the main floor, she was shocked and surprised at the same time by the white golden light that shone through the open windows along the sides of the large corridor she found herself in. The ground was covered in strange shadows, created by the shining light of the morning sun. It seemed as if the light was reflected off the walls, and the entire corridor was covered in a mystical magical aura. The walls were old and the outer layer crumbled from the stone-like paper, but Shiria didn't mind. This place was perfect in her eyes. Looking outside the opening, she discovered that she could look out the garden, where she had buried her dead child the day before, or was it the day before? It seemed so far behind. She couldn't help but imagine someone standing right where she was standing right now, observing her while she buried her baby. A cold feeling crept down her back. The thought of another person was enough. She remembered, and the affection caused by the atmosphere of the place faded away in the shadows of evil. Anger pierced her mind, just for a single, short moment. Then she was calm, tranquil even. No emotion could make its way to her heart, and her face turned blank. For a second she turned around, walked up the corridor, and looked out the windows when passing by, but the magic of the play of light and stone could not affect her anymore. She turned around without hesitation and made her way back into the place she now called home. Let's continue. Days passed, during which Shiria just kept on exploring the areas of the mansion she now lived in. She felt uncertain about what the place was, and why she had found it. In a way, she doubted that she had just randomly had the luck of finding an abandoned place with mysterious places like this. It felt like she was meant to find the mansion and live in it. Even though the thought of that was reassuring and helped her to keep sane enough to seriously think about her next actions and consider her plans before acting, she was not certain about what to do with the place she had found that night. The biggest riddle in her eyes was the place she had found at the very bottom of the mansion. There was absolutely no doubt it was surrounded by a strange magical power. Sadly, Shiria didn't have a clue about what this power was and how to approach it. It took her a very long time until she allowed herself to climb down the stairs towards the mysterious place once more. When she arrived at the bottom, the aura of the place once again fascinated and scared her at the same time. It was an uneasy feeling, unequaled by anything she had ever experienced. She forced herself closer to the symbols on the wall. This time, she had to find out more about what this place was and its magic. It was impossible for her to leave again without knowing more about it. For a while, she just stood there, staring at the strange symbols on the wall. After a while, the feeling seemed to change, like the evil that had crept into her mind and heart at her family's place when she saw her dead daughter in front of her. Something seemed to pierce its way into her body. At first, she felt it physically, like an eternal coldness. Something made its way through her fingers, up her arms, and into her throat. From there it seemed to stream down her bones, her veins, into each and every inch of her body. She could not get used to the feeling, however, kept still. Maybe it would anger whatever entered her body if she tried to get away from it. She managed to stay calm. Taking deep breaths, she allowed the foreign power to spread to her very being, to enter her mind and her heart. It seemed angry, unsatisfied at the inconvenient interruption to its own quiet rest. The more of Shiria it took, the more pain it inflicted upon her. Shiria did not care, she did not mind it. Pain had no more power over her. Calm as ever, she stood there, without moving, without shaking, without even flinching at the cold feeling. After a while, Shiria could feel a change within the power. All of a sudden she knew that this was not a random power unleashed by surprise or accident. Instead, she felt it was a being on its own, foreign, unknown, and magical. She could feel it change its ways when it had found its way through her mind and heart. and knew about her past, insanity, and evil. It no longer saw her as an inconvenience, it saw her as an ally. In the same moment she realized it was opening up to her, the same way she had been forced to open up to it, she embraced it. Her sight changed. She did not see the way she did before, through an aura of blurry redness. She made out a pedestal right in front of the pentagram. Something inside her told her to approach it, and she did. The closer she got, the more details she could see. On the pedestal was a book, a tattered, old, and thick book in leather wrapping. She moved behind the pedestal, looking down upon the revealed item. When she raised her hand in order to touch it, she found herself shaking in anxiety and excitement. Slowly but steadily, she dropped her hand on the ancient leather. In her mind, she was sucked into the book. It was a single smooth move of her bending over and drowning in the magic of the area. Then, everything around her turned black as she fell back and passed out on the floor in front of the pedestal. When she woke up, she felt the change inside of her body. The tranquil weakness that had lured over her previously was replaced by a sudden motivation and strength. Every doubt was washed away by the mindless power of the magic she had embraced. In difference to what she had expected, she noticed she didn't have to read or even open the book she had previously found. All she had to do was embrace the knowledge, and it would stream towards her, into her, and make her powerful. A voice deep within her warned her to be cautious. There was no telling what the magic could do to her if she lost control over it. The voice told her, and she listened to it, reminding herself of the important fact each and every day. At first, she was a little uncertain about how to deal with the new powers. She just kept on exploring the mansion, even though she had felt like she'd already found every detail that what there was to it. The power remained sealed inside of her, controlled but existent. The first time she unleashed it was whenever she heard noises from upstairs and found children play in her garden. No child should be allowed to play in that particular garden, and on her daughter's grave. They had no idea. They weren't worth the knowledge. She just wanted them to disappear. The magic inside her arose, giving her a slight tickling feeling in her fingertips, bending them slightly, forming a fist and releasing the pressure again. Appeared to only make it worse. She was angry. Mad, even. All she wanted was for them to disappear. She focused them, closed both of her hands to fists, and stared in the direction from one of the windows she had discovered in her first exploration. They did not seem to notice her. All they could feel was the wind, steadily becoming wilder, increasing its intensity and volume. The second thing they noticed were the deeply red particles in the air, blowing towards them with the wind. They paused their game and looked up from the ball they had played with. She could feel their curiosity, then their fear. Run. Shiria's voice was only a whisper in the loudness of the unbound air, yet she could feel their face expressions change when the wind carried the quiet sound to their ears. Even though it was not loud, it was full of intensity, hatred, and evil. They turned around on their heels and ran away through the neighbors' gardens. Shiria unleashed the full power of her magic, not intentionally, but she could not control it. She began to laugh insanely, coughing a few times in between when she could not keep the air circulating correctly through her lungs. The wind increased the noise, made it a resounding, roaring laughter. Red clouds arose in the sky, covering the area from daylight. It's a little bit too happy of music for this scene we're painting here. Shiria felt a last burst of energy leave her body before passing out. When she woke up, she had no recollection of what had happened. She only knew that it was bad, and that she had to tame the energy inside of her if she did not want things to become out of hand too quickly. The following day, she found a way to practice her control over her energy, and at the same time plan ahead for her future by building something. What she wanted to build was obvious to her. It would help her to deal with her parents in the very end. She had to build a dungeon. Enough space was easy to find in one of her upper levels of the mansion. Strange enough, she thought, remembering that dungeons were usually to be found underground. But she was special. and she felt special, and she had absolutely no doubt about her choice being correct. The same day she began to plan the first changes to her rooms, and used her energy to burst the walls and create space for her ideas. All trash and stone created by this was shoved in by magical waves into a corner in the back, where it did not bother her. In fact, the mess suited her desires for the final appearance of the rooms on this level quite perfectly. The more mess, the better the effect. She began to build her own custom tools and wonder about the possibilities her magic would have to offer. First, she thought about looking it up in the book, until she realized that all the knowledge from the book was stored safely somewhere inside her mind. She only had to access it. Accessing it proved to be more challenging than she had first expected, for her mind was so much of a mess these days that she could not even figure out where to start searching. And searches through her own mind weren't daily routine for her, so she found the task to be quite disheartening. The more tools she built, the more clearly images of possible scenarios involving the machines and the magic got in her head. The more clearly she could see herself doing things, the more control she felt she had over the strange new power inside of her. She could embrace it more, all of it. Her power and the her and the power became closer until they merged together as one. Every day she kept on building and developing her skills until one day she found the chamber in the exact appearance she had dreamt of it to be. And then she was ready. She knew where he lived. It wasn't a secret. Everyone knew where he lived. Just that in this particular case, it would have been better for him if she didn't. After observing his house and his family's living habits for a couple days, she knew she had seen enough. It was time to begin. It was nighttime when she felt that the moment was right to begin. He lived in a casual townhouse in the center of the village, only a few streets away from the school he taught at. It was a one-floor building with, as Shiria estimated, 4 different rooms. A normal family, with husband, wife, and 3 children. When she began to figure out her plan, she had been hesitant. She had felt sorry for the children whom she had considered innocent. But then the voice inside her told her that she didn't have to be sorry for them. They were the same flesh and blood as their fathers. They would grow up to be like them and were the same ever since their birth. What she did for them would be a favor. She went around the house into the garden. From here she knew nobody would be able to observe her. The darkness of the night surrounded her and protected her from unwanted spectators. To her disappointment, no window or door was open. She had hoped the family would perhaps leave one of them open for some fresh air through the night. In either case, it wasn't an issue for her. She was prepared. One of the windows on the back side of the house was weaker than the others. She took a moment to gain focus and gathered her thoughts around the magic she was about to unleash. And different than what it had been like in the beginning. She did now not have to focus to get enough energy to cast her spell. Instead, she now focused on releasing just enough energy to complete the task without making a sound. She created a small, red glowing aura right around the window. The noises she created within this aura seemed to disappear. The red light absorbed it in its entirety, making the place completely silent. With small effort, she pushed the window open, breaking the glass. The shards floated in the air, before slowly dropping down towards the ground, where they arrived without making the slightest bit of noise. Still within the effect of the aura, Shiria broke the last pieces of glass out of the window, and jumped through the now created opening, supporting herself in the wall around the window. This guy deserves it. Seriously, this guy should die. Inside, it was completely dark. Shiria closed her eyes. The effect of the magic within her began to emerge. Never before had she tested this, and her curiosity about whether or not it was true was unbelievably strong. She opened her eyes again, and the complete darkness had faded away, making space for a warm, red-glowing atmosphere in which the room was now covered. Every detail was visible. She saw the furniture, the doorways to the other rooms, the wooden planks on the walls and the ground. Looking down into a larger shard from the broken glass, she could see herself. She had changed. The once cute girl, who was so friendly to everyone and kept all of her pain inside of her, had disappeared. Instead, she looked into the bony face of a serious woman. The thin cheeks, the dark lips, the graceful nose, and her incredibly pale skin she did not seem to even notice. Her eyes seemed to draw all of her attention on them. A pair of large, wide-open eyes, looking back at her with a wildness, grim determination and evil she would never have expected to see on herself. That was not the only thing that caught her attention. The beautiful blue color of her eyes had been replaced with a bright red color of fresh blood. A faint glow seemed to emerge from within them, and she assumed that the red was caused by her attempt to see in complete darkness. After overcoming a slight fear of herself and what she was planning on doing, she felt calm, tranquil, just like she usually feels. It was an inner peace she would not have imagined in herself. After realizing how desperate, rather insane she had become, she looked away from the strange image of herself, now only concentrating on what was to come. I think this is a good place to stop. Hope you guys are excited, because it looks like things are about to get messy. I hope you guys liked the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did like the video, comment on the video, subscribe to the video, like the video, and subscribe or me. I messed that all up. And I will see you guys later.